all of the new Democrats that came in and put Nancy Pelosi in charge and gave the Congress the ability to control this president, I got them.
So shortly after that, and it was still echoing that malaprop that Mike Bloomberg, you just wait long enough, you let people talk long enough, eventually they can't keep the facade up. Not long after that, the Government and Accountability and Oversight law firm issued a request to the IRS for documentation on the efforts of the Bloomberg philanthropies. And from Government Accountability and Oversight is Matthew Hardin, Esquire. Matt, good to hear from you again. Yeah. You recognize the name, former Greene County Commonwealth's attorney as well, but long time with the Government Accountability and Oversight law firm. Good to have you back on the program, Matt. How are you doing?
Wonderful, Joe. It's great to be back.
So tell me what you guys are looking for in the efforts of the Bloomberg philanthropies. We had talked to your cohort, Chris Horner, some time ago about their behavior in the Attorney's General office and going through NYU to fund these special assistants to go after people who give money to organizations like E&E Legal and truth tellers about the environment. Is this similar to that, or is there something else going on here? Tell us what's happening.
That's what sparked our interest, essentially. We file open records requests all over the place, and it's exposed this scheme in state attorneys general offices where essentially you can buy yourself a prosecution. Well-connected donors and the NYU Law School have decided to fund what they call fellows, and a fellow is actually a prosecutor that sits in a state attorney general's office and has state attorney general's prosecutorial powers, but instead of being paid by the state, is paid by a private donor, and that model really scared us.
Yeah,
and of course, as it should, really, it should scare everybody to know that prosecutions are for sale these days. But the presidential campaign started, and one of the things that came out repeatedly is Bloomberg philanthropies, giving substantial sums of money to candidates, to this AG's program, to people like the gun safety folks, the Moms Demanding Action and groups like that. Mm-hmm. So we started to think, wait a minute, what's really going on here, and is it allowed for a nonprofit? I mean, Government Accountability and Oversight is itself a nonprofit. We have to work within the rules when we try and expose what government's up to. Sure. We can't engage in politics. We can't engage in substantial lobbying. We have rules that we have to follow. And it started to concern us because Mike Bloomberg, depending on who you believe, has given between $9 and $10 billion as part of Bloomberg philanthropies. But if you look at where this money's going, a lot of the public donations aren't necessarily fitting with a charitable purpose. He's giving money to Democrat candidates. He's giving money to lobbying groups. And if that's coming from a nonprofit, that's a problem.
Well, and there's a reason for that, because the nonprofit has tax-exempt status. So, certainly, being able to focus more monies and then collect monies from people under tax advantageous circumstances give them a power over the process in a way that I think is untoward. But I just hang around with lawyers. I don't have a law degree. It just feels this way. But moreover than this is that I can't shake the fact that this sounds like a money laundering scheme. That if the Gambino crime family was doing this through an Irish pub in Chinatown, New York, there'd be a RICO case being filed.
Well, and you really can't tell where the money's coming from, which is part of our concern. Mike Bloomberg gives some of these donations personally from his own checkbook, but he also has something called the Bloomberg Family Foundation, and he also has a group called Bloomberg LP. That was his for-profit business where he made all of his money. And then there's this nebulous organization called Bloomberg Philanthropies, and as near as I can tell, Bloomberg Philanthropies is not itself an organization. If you go to the website, it's bloomberg.org, he says, well, this is a combination of my personal giving and my company's giving and my foundation's giving. And so you never really know where the money's coming from. Is it coming from him? Is it coming from a nonprofit? Is it coming from a company? And I think that's exactly what you're talking about with money laundering. There's no transparency as where this money's coming from. Just all of a sudden, on the other end, $100 million, as he said at the debate, is being used for Democrat candidates. But there are also substantial donations to all sorts of causes that are political in nature and all sorts of politicians, which obviously should not be tax exempt. I've run for office, and people asked me when I ran for office if donations to my campaign were tax deductible, and the answer was no, they're not. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be able to evade that by having a nonprofit give donations to political candidates.